Welcome, Louise. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to have the opportunity to speak with you here on Nothing Conversations. So big welcome.
Thanks, Luchana. I'm really happy to be talking to you.
So I came across you last year when the first Nothing conference was held, and I was touched by your gentle approach.
Okay.
So I said to Mom, I need to speak with Louise maybe. And then a friend suggested I should send me your site and said, do you know Louise? And I said, yeah. So this is the right time.
Great. Thanks for inviting me to do this interview.
Yeah, it's not something, so-called special. It's just like having a chat. And So let me start. What should I ask first? So is there a Louise which hold spaces for non-dual exploration and embodied awareness on the one hand, and on the other Louise which is a woman, a partner, a loved one, a daughter, I don't know, a sister maybe? Is there spiritual life and it's not so-called spiritual? How these do?
For me, there is no distinction between spiritual life and any other life. For me, every moment is the divine. Every moment is spiritual. And of course, when I'm doing the group meetings and the events, then I'm performing a function as a spiritual teacher. But the moment that that event is finished, that function is not performed in that way. So I'm not going to the supermarket cashier and asking, have you inquired who or what you are? it's not relevant.
True.
And there's also Louise, this physical form, this temporary expression of life that has certain conditionings. For example, I was born and brought up in England, so I love drinking tea. And that's natural. And beyond that, there's what I would refer to as the true self, our essence, which is this vast, infinite, spacious awareness. That's the same essence that imbues all form, all life. So on that level, there's only the one consciousness, which is expressing itself in a multitude of varying physical forms: trees, animals, dolphins, humans, elephants, flowers. The forms all appear differently, but the essence which animates these forms is the same consciousness. And my great love is to explore this with people and to deepen into this infinite spaciousness, because as we open to it and deepen into it, our system opens up, and it's like a kind of a melting, a merging with that, and then a natural peace and joy and love begins to flow through us and begins to overflow from us. So in a way, it's a paradox that I'm not this temporary form, this character Louise, and at the same time I am that. And many people start out in this life, on this journey, with total identification as the form. So there's the belief that this body is me, this is what I am. And I'm the ideas that I have about myself. I am, and this forms a kind of a conceptual self, a self-image. And the self-image is either positive or negative. But it actually is just a concept, it's just an image. And when we believing ourselves to be that image, it causes us a lot of strife and struggle and suffering. And it's that very struggling and suffering that often leads people to begin to inquire, wow, there must be something else here, there must be something more to this life. And so when this inquiry begins, a search for something deeper. It's like something in the heart feels a subtle pull, a searching. I'm not fulfilled by this external materialism. Something knows. And when the search begins, we begin to inquire, oh, am I just this body? Am I limited to this? Or is there something more? What about when the body dies? Will I cease to exist? Am I just these ideas about myself? Because they're changing. Before it was a positive self-image, now it's negative. So am I that which is changing? And we start to inquire. And this creates a kind of a space between that which is aware of the body and the sensations and the emotions, and that which is aware of the concepts and thoughts. And there is a seeing that, well, all of these experiences, emotions, sensations, thoughts, they keep changing. And that which is aware, it's not changing, it's constant, it's always here. So maybe I'm not this after all, maybe I'm this unchanging presence, awareness. And often then there's a kind of a movement between the two, and until we become deeply anchored and established in and as awareness. And then a kind of an identity shift takes place, not from one mental idea of the self to another mental idea of the self, which is another belief, but through direct experience, through direct knowing that I'm not the body, I'm not the conceptual self, I am pure awareness, and I'm eternal, actually. I was never born and I'll never die. And once we become deeply established and anchored, deeply rooted in that, often a retreating from externality takes place for this inquiry to happen, and for us to really deepen into it. And that's when people find like, oh, I'm not interested in socializing like I was before. It just feels empty. It doesn't fulfill me like it did in the past. I'm interested, like there's this pull just to be quiet. I don't want to speak all the time like I did before. There's a pull into the silence. And at some point, this movement starts to move back into life to express and play and create in form. And this brings about the understanding that, oh, okay, I understood I'm not the body and I'm not the personality and the conceptual self. But actually, I also am that, because it's not separate from me. So it's a temporary expression, and it loves to express and create and play in life. And often we open to some divine intelligence that reveals a gift or an expression that wants to move through us that maybe we weren't even aware of before. Like we start playing music or singing, or we don't know. It's unique how it expresses through each of us. And then we can participate and be in life using this vehicle, but without identification and attachment to it. So the suffering is not there anymore. The strife and the struggles that come with the attachment.
So one could say that it is all paradoxical.
Yes.
Always,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
all the time and always.
Yeah. And there are many paradoxes like this in spirituality. It's almost like this divine has a very good sense of humor.
Yeah. Two things coming into my mind, and the first maybe is when does the search begins for you? What was the trigger? Let's say, is there any suffering? Or just an impulse like arising from nowhere?
I didn't experience extreme suffering like a lot of people go through. There was a constant challenge of feeling a little bit different somehow. A challenge to relate, to kind of fit in society, fit in the world, especially at school. I was very sensitive, and it just kind of didn't make sense to me somehow. So something inside had this feeling something's not right here, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it because my parents, my teachers, everybody was telling me, oh, this is right, this is how it should be. And it contradicted this inner feeling that something's really off. And I just don't know what it is. And it was in my early 20s when I came across Eckhart's book, The Power of Now. And it just made so much sense. It awakened everything inside, and there was a knowing, a deep knowing inside, this is it. I had absolutely no doubt, and I just wanted more. I just couldn't get enough. It was kind of like an obsession. And all my life became oriented around the teachings and exploring. So I quit my job, I left my apartment, and I just went to India on a one-way ticket. And I had to find it. It was the most important thing in my life. And in India, I experienced a non-dual awakening there. And since then, there's been a continual deepening and integration process. And it seems to me that there's actually no end to that. We have these peak moments where there's a profound opening, a deep opening. And often people have the idea that that's it. But it's not the case, because when that opening happens, on the level of form, then all the unconscious beliefs that we took on throughout life and our conditionings, all the unprocessed emotions that are held in the system, it all bubbles out to be processed. And all the trauma comes up. So we start to meet the unprocessed emotions and to see where we've been moving through life, looking through a kind of a filter of certain perspective or identification with a belief. And from this presence, this space of open awareness, this cleansing process takes place on the human level, on the level of form. So I'm working a lot with people with both of these aspects together, to inquire into the true self in order to disidentify from the conceptual self and the idea that I'm the body, and to discover this deeper presence which brings peace, and to know oneself as awareness, and to meet the unprocessed emotions and the unconscious beliefs on the human level, so that as we're moving through life, we're becoming more functional, more integrated, a more clear expression of truth. And this is the embodiment aspect. So I coined this term embodied awareness.
Interesting. Do you follow any teachers or lineages in India? There are many, many gurus there. Various kinds.
Yeah. I resonate most deeply with the non-duality teachings, especially the lineage from Ramana, and so I explored Papaji's teachings and Gangaji and Guji, and I also enjoy many other teachers, Rupert Spira and Adyashanti. So I feel I got from each teacher something a little bit different, because this expresses itself in a unique way. So, sure. For example, with Muji, I love this devotional aspect. I felt that really opened my heart to sing praises to the divine with the kirtan. And listening to Rupert Spira, his pointings are just so precise and mentally clear. And I have a deep appreciation for many different teachers.
Yeah, it's like in the right moment, you receive what you need to receive.
Exactly, yeah.
I know it is very hard to put in words, but I would like to, if you can just spot on these words like awareness, consciousness, maybe true self. Is it possible that personality can hide in this true self? I'm not the person now, but look, I am the higher self. Do you see this often, or I would like to? It's interesting topic for me, because I notice this. It's very easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it is not true or right, but it's very easily misunderstood. Probably, I don't know. So what does the word awareness point to when you when you inquire, let's say?
Yeah, that's really the whole point. You just said, what does it point to? Because it can only be pointed to. Every teaching is just a pointing to that, and we have to follow the pointing in our own experience and really look for oneself in order to know it through direct experience. Otherwise, it's just taken on as another belief that, it says in this book, or this teacher said, I'm not the conceptual self, I'm awareness. Okay, I'm awareness, I get it now. But that's not it. That's just another idea of who this I is. And the conceptual self exists through having an identity. So it's constantly seeking, where can I get an identity, whether that's through a religion or a spiritual teaching or being part of a particular sangha.
True.
It sneaks in spiritual circles also. This teacher is the right one, or this is my sangha, and there's a sense of self in there. And without that sense of self, it feels like death. It feels like I will cease to exist, I will die. And so it creates a lot of very clever little blind spots to protect itself, which prevents us from seeing how it's playing out in us. So one can believe that I am not identified with the conceptual self, yet not see that one actually is identified with the conceptual self, because it's a blind spot that's there. And that's why it's important for us to spend time in this inquiry with a spiritual teacher who from the outside is able to see these blind spots, and that we are really wanting to see. Because when there is the attitude of I only want to open to the true self, I only want that, then there's gratitude to see where some conditioning or unconscious belief is acting out. Thank you, I'm so happy to see that. Otherwise, when it's pointed out, the ego protects itself and it puts up the walls of protection. No, you're wrong, in order to prevent us from seeing where we're identified. So it's often the case in spiritual circles where this conceptual self sheds an identity of our previous pre-awakening life, only to take on a new identity as the spiritual one.
Yeah, I've seen this many times.
Yes. Yeah.
So in you, probably.
So vigilance is required, and humility is required, and radical honesty is required to continuously check in with oneself. Everything that's spoken, the words might be all the right words, all the most profound, deep teachings, but the words are, in a way, not important. What's important is what's underlying the words, what's the feeling, the energy that's infused in the words. Does it feel clear? Does it feel sweet? or does it have a sour feeling to it? And we can, when we start to check in with ourselves, when we're relating with people, when we're speaking, and just curiously inquire, we start to become aware when something's spoken and then we feel, oh, that felt a little bit off. Okay, that's okay. I don't need to beat myself up about it, but let's have a look. What's playing out there when that was spoken? Ah, there's an energy that wants to be seen, that wants to be acknowledged, that wants to feel it has worth. Ah, it's innocent. Okay. And then we trace that back. Now, what does that feel like in the body? Oh, there's a contraction right in the abdomen there. Oh, that feels uncomfortable. And then we go into it. Gently open to it and feel it. And often we'll feel a familiar discomfort that might have been there our whole life and we didn't even realize it until we go right into the core of it and open to it. And as we open to it, our system opens, and the energy then has space to process and release. And then we feel like, oh, I can breathe more freely, or we notice. And the energy body starts to become more open, more spacious. And then when that energy is not contracted there anymore, it stops expressing itself unconsciously. But these things often have many layers, they're multiple layered. So we release one layer and then it expresses itself in a different way, and that's seen, and we meet that. So it's an ongoing process, and as the process continues, we notice that we become more gentle, more loving, more clear, more quiet, and more present, and more peaceful.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you speak with your family and friends? Do you share with your partner maybe?
My partner shares this love for truth.
Oh, that's
So
lovely.
it's really a blessing to be able to explore this and deepen in this together. And he's really been a support to me on my journey.
This is wonderful, really. It's
Yeah.
because it's also resonates so much because it's my case as well. I feel blessed. This is the right word. I mentioned the other day that we are on ending retreat. This is the feeling like we are exploring all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. And family and friends, if they're interested and they ask, I love to share this, but there's no interest to change anybody, to convince anybody of anything. It's not necessary. And often if we try to shove something down people's throats, it calls up anyway. They're not interested in that. So nobody needs to be any certain way. Nobody needs to even understand these teachings in order for us to enjoy loving them and to appreciate them. And that's really what brings us a sense of inner fulfillment when we're in a state of openness and love. And this love is unconditional. So it's not like, oh, if you experience spiritual awakening, then I will love you. No, it's here for everyone, and there's an overflow for every being. And once we recognize through direct experience our true self as awareness, then there's a clear seeing that all other beings are me, actually. And often that light of consciousness in the other, it's kind of blocked by the conditions, the conditionings and the unconscious beliefs. It's like they're wearing a mask in a way and acting out the mask or a character. But if you know that they're not that mask, then you can see beyond the mask to yourself. And so you're always communicating with, relating with yourself. And why would you want to be anything other than totally unconditionally loving to yourself? It just wouldn't make any sense. It's a bit like if you were to watch a movie with an actor playing a character in the movie, and then you meet that actor in the street. Do you relate to them as though they're the character they played in the movie, or do you relate to them as the actor, the who they actually are? So if you believe that they're the character in the movie and you don't know anything else, you don't know that they're an actor actually, you think the movie is what's real, then you have no choice but to relate to them as that. But you're not relating to what's really, who they really are actually, you're relating to a kind of a fantasy. But once you know, oh, they're just an actor playing a character, they're wearing a costume and playing out a role, that's not who they are. It's Brad Pitt. Then we can relate directly to Brad.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Does Luisa have some struggles or worries about tomorrow, about next month, or summer?
Thought forms can arise, which can be a thought about the future or a worry thought, but the thoughts are seen and they're not identified with, they're not believed in, so there's not actually the experience of worrying. Once we see that the thoughts that arise don't belong to us and they don't speak the truth and they're actually incredibly unimportant, we really are freed from a lot of suffering. And it's not necessary to project into an imaginary future, which actually we don't know what's going to happen. It's just a giving away of our energy to a stream of pointless thinking. It just drains our energy. And nor is it useful in most cases to replay past events over and over. Again, it just drains our energy. So when we let go of that and drop our energy into the body and deeply into this moment, then we're fully present here in this moment. And that's where the aliveness is. That's where the sense of deep fulfillment lies, when we're really here now. And then thoughts might come, but they're like ripples on the surface of the ocean. It's not interesting. What's interesting is to be fully here. Whatever arises fresh, then we perceive like a child in a way, where everything's amazing, everything's beautiful. We can see and appreciate the colors, the shapes, the smells, the sounds, without taking everything for granted by conceptualizing it, putting it into a little box. Oh, that's a tree, I know what that is. That's the smell of fresh bread, smelled that many times. and then life becomes like a boring drag. But if we're meeting every moment like it's the first moment, then just like a child says, wow, mommy, look at that tree. Then we see like that, wow, that's incredible. We see there's just blessings and beauty all around us.
Yeah, it's like when all the experience drops here, it's like you start see what is real. Yeah, it's much more fun here than here.
Yes, yes. Because the heart is our true power center, and it's when are we happiest? When we're in love. That's when we're singing, we're dancing. So why can we not be in love every single moment with everyone and everything? Many times the reason is because our attention's up here, thinking. And we've kind of forgotten how to feel, how to be. There's a drive to do. And this is the shift that takes place from doing to being, from thinking to feeling. And often there's a feeling that, well, if I stop thinking and doing, I'm gonna become stupid. I won't be able to function. But the opposite is true. We become much more clear because when we're connected to this deeper intelligence. And it's that deeper intelligence that starts to move through us and direct our life, rather than the limited intelligence of the human mind, which thinks it knows what we need, it thinks it knows what's best. But that actually is a very underdeveloped form of intelligence in comparison to an intelligence that can create galaxies and universes.
It's just so simple sitting like this and just sharing.
That's it. Once we open to this love, it's not so interesting to talk so much. We just want to, it's like drinking a sweet nectar, and we just want to fall into this silence. I was doing a session with somebody yesterday, and we were sitting like this, and I said, oh, can you describe your experience? And he said, it's like, I'm trying to remember his words now. I don't know if I can remember exactly what he said, but it was very beautiful. He said, it's like life is playing music, but there's no sound to the music. Something like that. I don't remember
so beautiful.
And I felt like that really describes very beautiful what it feels like. It's a silence, but it feels like this symphony of sweetness. It's like God's music. And when we're talking and thinking, it creates so much noise that we can't hear that sweet symphony. Once we hear it, we just want to keep listening. We just want to be. We just want to open deeper and deeper, because the deeper we open, the sweeter it gets. And there's no end to it.
Yeah, and speaking, one could say from that place, words, it's like words are different. They are, I don't know, it's like full of, again, a lacking word, full of sweetness, maybe full of Not truth, because I don't know what truth is exactly, but so one could sense that the words are different. They are heavy somehow, not heavy in a bad way, just something there. There's
potent.
Something, yeah, potent.
Yeah. And not just the words, our whole relating changes, because we're no longer expressing through this filter of this separate individual me, this mask that is full of agendas. Like, I have to please other people, I have to make sure I behave the right way so that I'll be accepted and not rejected, so I don't have to feel the pain of that. I have to make sure people approve of me. I have to make sure that I'm seen as having value and worth, so I'd better get a good job so that people think I have value, so I better study. And our whole orientation in life is focused on achieving and becoming and enhancing this imaginary self. So our words are born from that place. And so we say things like, and often it's kind of subtly hidden or not so subtle once you become aware of it. Name dropping or mentioning things. Oh, I was talking to my friend, whoever it is, the other day. It's not important to give the information, but it's said to impress the other person. So the words spoken are born from this conceptual self that's just trying to enhance itself. When all of that falls away, many people actually have this experience like, wow, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I literally don't know how to behave. And it can feel quite disorienting in the beginning, because we've been living playing out a mask and a character, and suddenly it's ripped away from us, and we're not jumping through these hoops anymore. There's just freedom. And it's only when we just be and stay quiet that this deeper, true expression starts to move through us. And then these words are not coming from me, the individual, they're coming from this field of intelligence, and they're just moving through me, the individual self. And sometimes words are spoken and it's like, wow, where did that come from? I could never think of that. That was incredible. And we relate to people from here. So a huge transformation in life comes about. And we walk more gently. We interact more gently. Everything is infused with the qualities of awareness, which is peacefulness, humility, gentleness, compassion, and unconditional love, and sweetness.
As far as I know, you do not recommend any practice or besides sitting in silence. But I would like if you can share something about, do one need a practice, or Do you practice anything?
I did. Now there's really a moment to moment, just meeting whatever arises. I did meditation practice, and I did many hours of this practice that I share with people, embodied awareness, which contains a few different practices within itself. And what I recommend to people is to feel inside yourself what really resonates in your heart, what really speaks to you, and what is working for you. Because we're all different. We're all different expressions. We've all had different experiences in life. And we're very blessed now with the internet and YouTube. And there are many different teachers expressing truth in different ways. So if you listen to one, and yeah, the words all sound like the right words that you know that you've heard, but something doesn't feel right, that's okay. Find for you what feels right. Find that resonance and trust your own inner guidance, your own inner knowing above all else. Even if somebody comes to you and tells you, I'm the most enlightened person on planet Earth right now, so you should do everything I tell you, do this practice, and then you'll get enlightened. If you don't feel in your heart that it feels right, then thank you, but no. So your own heart, your own knowing is number one. This is most important. So that we don't give our power away externally. That, oh, that person's enlightened, that person's a spiritual teacher, so they know better than me. And every single moment, to the best of your ability, stay fully present with whatever's here right now. And when the thoughts arise, don't engage with them. So it's like the stream of thoughts comes, and we can, each thought has a kind of a hook, and it wants us to latch onto the hook so it can take us with it. Then we're gone, thinking about the future. So the practice is not to take the hooks, and some of them have really big hooks, and they're coated in sugar, so they look very sweet and alluring. Come on, take the hook. Now the key is to stay vigilant enough not to take any hook, not to go with any thought, but to focus the attention instead on the space in which the thoughts are appearing. And every time the attention shifts back towards the thoughts, just notice it and come back to this spaciousness. And as we do that, a shift takes place where before the content of the mind and the thoughts was in the foreground and the presence was in the background, or maybe not even aware that it's there, as we start to focus our attention on the presence and not on the thoughts, we stop feeding and energizing the thoughts. They get quieter and they shift into the background, and the spaciousness becomes primary. So it's like with everything, the more we practice, the easier it gets. So it's just a consistent, continual practice the whole day, no matter what you're doing, to disengage from the thinking mind and just be, to drop into being, and to consciously feel the sensations in the body. Now, many people aren't even aware that it's possible to feel sensations in the body because the attention, the whole life has been so focused on the thoughts, all the attention's up here. So then when they start to explore, okay, drop your attention into the body, often there's a realization, oh, it doesn't feel good. Now, the reason it doesn't feel pleasant is because there's unprocessed emotions and energies that have been held in the system for many, many years. And as we gently open to it and feel the discomfort, very gently, just giving it gentle attention. I see you, I feel you, you can be here. Our system opens and these energies start to release. It's like a diffusion takes place. All the toxicity that's held. And as it releases, it creates more space in the system. And what enters into this space becomes infused with this higher consciousness. And really, it's the most effortless practice. It's really the practice of allowing and being. That's why many times it's challenging for people, because we're so oriented in achieving goals and doing something to see a result. Okay, I have to do something. What do? I have to think about something, because that's how we've been brought up. So then when we're told, okay, stop, do nothing, just be, that's a waste of time. Until this opening happens and there's this glimpse, the taste. Once you've had a taste of it, there's no going back. Because this is the sweetest nectar that one can possibly know.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. It's so joyful sitting like this, really. It's like, don't feel like any special conversation or something.
I'm really happy just to sit like this, and probably the people that are watching this are also interested and probably will enjoy too. So then we can sit together and just speak for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And rather than speaking about the practice, this actually is the practice, just to be.
Mm.
Many times I sit with people like this at the meetings, and I tell them, you don't have to be any certain way, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to try to be anything. And it's quite foreign for most of us, because we're so conditioned that We have to connect with the person. We have to make sure they feel good. All these unspoken, unconscious agreements and dynamics start playing out when we interact with people. And just to be and meet from freedom as awareness, where I don't want anything from you, you don't want anything from me, I don't need anything from you, you don't need anything from me.
Yeah.
I don't have to be any certain way. Just however you are right now is totally perfect. Many times this huge relief comes like, oh, because it's exhausting for us to keep up this act of trying to be good enough, trying to be seen. It exhausts us. So just like this, we're totally enough. No matter what we do, we can't be more. It's not possible to be more when we're already perfection. That allows us to meet actually much more intimately. We really can meet from freedom. And that's what really we long for as humans, to really meet, to really feel each other, to really be present with each other, to be fully seen. And it's incredibly nurturing for our system.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Most of us didn't experience that as young children. We had to behave how our mum and dad wanted us to behave, and then we'd get some crumbs of love. So the love was conditional love. We had to behave the right way to please them. And this love is totally unconditional. So whatever arises, it's welcome. Anxiousness, anger, sadness, all these emotions that we have a tendency to label as bad, or there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. Well, if we let them come and we see that's not me, it's just some energy passing through right now, well, that can be here too, that's fine. It doesn't define us.
Maybe it will be interesting if you share something about the future gatherings or meetings. Maybe they're all on your site, but you can just share a few words, please.
Yeah, at the moment, as you know, because of this pandemic situation, all the group events and retreats are kind of on pause. So right now, everything's online, and every Wednesday and every Sunday, I do a 2-hour open Zoom meeting. And I start with a 30-minute guided meditation, and then the participants have the opportunity to raise they have this digital hand. You can raise your digital hand, and if they have a question or they want to explore something, they come up on screen, and we explore that. And it's really beautiful, because what we're discovering as a group, as we've been doing this in groups, like becoming closer and growing together, because people are seeing in whoever comes up on screen, oh, I experience that too, and it's this feeling, oh, I'm not alone, I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, it's like you see that you are not so unique.
Yes.
It's very down to earth experience.
Yeah, and that really helps people to move beyond these fears that we all experience. Fear that if I'm vulnerable, I'll be rejected, that it's not safe. So I do this every Wednesday and Sunday, and every month there is an intensive online weekend retreat. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Next one is February 12th to 14th.
Interesting.
But the details are always on my website, and that's really an opportunity where we go really deep. You know, the whole weekend's dedicated to this teaching and living it every moment, and being in this field where everybody has the same focused intention to deepen into presence. It's very powerful, and we had some really beautiful experiences there. So anybody that's watching this, if they feel drawn to this teaching and they'd like to try it out, they're welcome. The Wednesday and Sunday open Zoom meetings are by donation, so everyone's welcome to join. And the sign-up links are on my website.
Oh, Louise, it was so nice speaking with you, really. I enjoyed so much.
Me too, Luchana.
And this, in the beginning of our conversation, when we find out that you are now in Greece, and
yes, we're neighbors.
Yeah, almost.
Mm.
Who knows, maybe somewhere we can even meet in person. We'll see.
Yes, let's see. That'll be wonderful.
Okay, I will stop the recording now. Pause.